Christmas morning. A day that should have glittered with joy felt like a dull, chipped ornament. My little grandson, with eyes like deep pools of curiosity, looked up at me. "Who are you again?" he asked, his innocent words striking my heart like a pebble skipping across still water. His mother chuckled, a light, carefree sound. I felt no such lightness. That evening, they ushered me out, not with harsh words, but with a quiet, unsettling finality. I was placed in a large metal storage box in the backyard, a cold, impersonal vault for forgotten things. It was no place for a person, certainly not for a grandmother. The air inside bit with an icy chill. There was no warmth, no plush blankets, just a thin, musty cover that smelled of damp basement. The wind outside sang a mournful tune, its mournful whispers seeping through the cracks, intensifying the frigid grip. The box reeked of forgotten Christmases, of dust and fading memories. Once it had held the vibrant lights, the festive wrapping paper, the beloved artificial tree that brought so much cheer. Now, its sole inhabitant was me. My daughter-in-law, David's wife, had been the one to guide me there. Her voice, though hushed, carried a sharp, cutting edge like shards of ice. She was meticulous about appearances, ensuring her words wouldn't carry to the important guests within the house. Her gaze swept over me, a slow, evaluating sweep from my warm sweater to my worn slippers. "Mom," she began, devoid of affection, "the house is teeming with David's influential work colleagues, people of means." She paused, a pregnant silence. "And you," she continued, a faint distaste on her face, "you have an elderly scent, a whiff of mothballs. It's unappealing. And that sweater is terribly outdated." Her expression soured. "Please," she implored, "do us a tremendous favor. Just remain out here, just until the party concludes." Then, with a soft, decisive click, the heavy door of the metal box sealed shut. No theatrical slam, just a quiet, absolute closure. I heard the lock turn, a small sound that echoed with monumental finality, the sound of being locked away, of being forgotten. I huddled in the oppressive darkness of the cold box, my hands clutching my sweater. I had knitted it years ago, when my fingers were nimble and winters less unforgiving. My late husband, now a cherished memory, had adored it, calling it my sunshine sweater because I'd crafted it during a blizzard to brighten our home. Now, it was my solitary source of comfort. From the house, I could hear the faint strains of "It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas." I once cherished that song, its melody filling me with a festive buoyancy. But here in the chilling confines, its cheer felt like a cruel mockery, churning my stomach. Laughter floated through the air, interspersed with the delicate clinking of glasses. A woman's animated voice described her new luxury car, a man's boisterous joke about his soaring income. Their world, vibrant and warm, mine shrouded in cold and darkness. Then a voice, intimately familiar, pierced the revelry. My grandson's clear, youthful tone. "Mom," he declared loud enough for all to hear, "who's that lady?" A sudden hush fell over the party, an expectant silence. I held my breath. My daughter-in-law's voice, smooth and honeyed, the one she reserved for important figures, answered. "Oh, honey," she cooed, "I believe that's merely a neighbor just dropping off a gift. Don't trouble yourself over it." A ripple of polite laughter followed, not malicious, but casual, dismissive, the kind of laughter reserved for something utterly insignificant, for someone who simply didn't matter. I was that someone, the person who didn't matter. I remained there, a motionless sentinel in the brutal Michigan winter, the air so cold it burned my lungs. But I did not stir, nor did I weep. I had shed tears before. When my beloved husband departed, tears of profound joy when my son entered the world, tears of anxious love when my grandson lay ill, his tiny hand in mine as I whispered stories until he drifted to sleep. But tonight, my tear ducts were dry. My hands trembled, not from sorrow, but from the raw, biting cold. My sweater offered little solace. My boots were inadequate. The thin blanket was useless. In that frigid, desolate moment, a harsh truth dawned on me. It was a painful realization, yet it offered a strange liberation. I was no longer an integral part of this family. I was merely an old relic, like a piece of furniture used for convenience, and then tucked away when no longer needed. To my grandson, I was not grandma, but that lady. To my son, not mom, but a mere inhabitant who occasionally caused discomfort. To his wife, I was a problem to be managed, to be concealed in a cold box. My mind wandered through Christmases past. I recalled conjuring magic from meager resources, transforming discount coupons into festive feasts, thrift store finds into cherished gifts. Nights spent tirelessly sewing costumes for my son's school plays, baking hundreds of cookies for school events, mending broken hearts with a warm cup of tea and a comforting story. I had given so much, poured my very essence into them. And now, here I was, inside. A roaring fire crackled in the hearth. I had only the wisps of my own breath visible against the frigid air. Inside, expensive chocolates and elaborate drinks. I had half a granola bar in my pocket. Inside, joyous music. I had only the deafening silence. My gaze swept the dark interior of the box. Other stacked containers bore labels like Christmas decorations. In a corner, a dusty, chipped nativity set caught my eye. Mary's face faded, Joseph missing a hand. Broken, forgotten, just like me. A bitter laugh almost escaped me, but instead, I whispered, a sound so faint only I could hear. This is not how my story ends. Because a secret, long held, stirred within me. Deep within that grand, warm house, tucked away in a closet, lay a small metal box. And inside that box, a crucial piece of paper, the deed to the house. It stated that 49% of the property was still mine. They might have conveniently forgotten that, but I hadn't. Not anymore. My life hadn't always been steeped in such sorrow. I was a mere 27 when my husband succumbed to illness. We lived in a cramped, rented house, our resources meager. He returned one day with a cough that never receded. 8 months later, he was gone. A widow at a young age, with a son barely 6, a boy who desperately missed his father. There was no luxury of grief. I had to be an unyielding force for my son. I took on 3 jobs: grocery store clerk in the mornings, motel cleaner during the day, laundry attendant at a nursing home late at night. Exhaustion was my constant companion. The money barely covered rent and food. Yet I always ensured his shoes were sturdy, his backpack intact, and a birthday cake, even if a humble boxed one, graced his special day. I never remarried. My friends attributed it to lingering sorrow for my husband, but the truth was my son consumed my entire world. Every moment, every ounce of love was dedicated to him. When I felt I had nothing left, I found a way to give more. When he yearned for college, tears welled in my eyes, knowing I lacked funds for his textbooks. So I found another job, working nights in a sprawling warehouse, the drive long and treacherous in winter. But I endured it for him, for his education. Later, he aspired to a more prestigious, expensive university. I sold the only personal possession I held dear, a small plot of land my father had left me, where I had dreamt of building a tiny house of my own. I sacrificed my dream for his. The money funded his education and a used car. I convinced myself it was the right thing to do. He excelled in his studies, secured a good job, and married a kind woman. I was immensely proud. His wife was beautiful, but her gaze always held a subtle disdain, as if I were a speck of dirt marring her pristine home. When they decided to purchase a large house, they sought my financial assistance. They needed a significant sum for the down payment. My entire life, I had diligently saved every spare penny, eschewing vacations and personal luxuries. This money was meant for my old age, but my son needed it, so I gave it all. The house they acquired was magnificent. 4 bedrooms, a sprawling yard for my grandson, a house for a truly happy family. I also helped them with the substantial bank loan, my name affixed to the papers alongside theirs. They insisted it was practical, a way to simplify matters. I trusted them implicitly. When we signed the closing documents, I smiled, feigning it as the happiest day of my life. I moved in after relinquishing my small apartment. Initially, everything was pleasant. I had my own room, and they expressed gratitude for my contribution. His wife even made me a cup of tea once. But subtly, gradually, things shifted. The thank yous faded. My entrance into a room often resulted in hushed conversations. They exchanged furtive glances across the dinner table. Invitations to dine out ceased. Sometimes I would return home to find my belongings rearranged without my knowledge. One day, my daughter-in-law presented me with papers claiming they were merely to simplify property ownership and for future planning. The legal jargon confused my aging, weary mind. I trusted my son, trusted his wife. Yet a faint inner voice, a quiet whisper of caution, prevented me from signing all the documents. I retained my share of the house, still owning 49%. I kept this to myself, rationalizing that perhaps one day they would need me again, and then they would remember me. This thought brought a sliver of comfort, a sense of belonging. But the years passed, and that day never arrived. Instead, I became a phantom in the house, always present, yet never truly seen. I picked up my grandson's abandoned toys, folded the laundry no one else bothered with, kept the thermostat lower to save on heating costs. Sometimes I even paid the utility bills they overlooked. My daughter-in-law began referring to me as her instead of Mom. At Thanksgiving, I was relegated to another room, the main table too crowded. When guests arrived, she'd introduce me as, "This is David's mom. She lives with us sometimes." I had helped build this house with my money and my effort, yet I was now merely a spectral presence. I stayed because of my profound love for my grandson, because I remembered my son as a little boy who needed his mother. I believed this was a mother's duty. I believed love was enough. But I learned that love offers no warmth, holds no sway with banks, and cannot prevent your own family from abandoning you in a frigid storage box on Christmas. All I had left was that piece of paper, the deed stating my 49% ownership, and perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough to finally make them listen. The day before the grand Christmas party, I awoke before dawn, my old bones aching from the cold, hard bed in the storage container. Despite the discomfort, I rose, yearning to be useful, to feel a flicker of belonging. I tiptoed into the silent house. Everyone's still asleep. In the kitchen, I pulled out the large mixing bowls, retrieved an old, faded recipe card from my pocket, my own mother's handwriting. It was for butter cookies, simple and sweet, my son's childhood favorite. My hands, though trembling, instinctively began to mix the flour and sugar. Soon, the kitchen was enveloped in the comforting aroma of warm vanilla and butter, a scent that transported me back to happier times. For a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to believe this Christmas might be different. I dared to hope. When my son and his wife descended the stairs, I waited. He, impeccably dressed in a fine sweater, she, elegant in a fancy gown. They walked past the kitchen without a glance at the cooling cookies, without a single word to me. Later, as guests began to arrive, filling the house with boisterous voices and opulent attire, I placed the cookies on my mother's antique serving plate, a beautiful piece with a delicate crack. Holding it, I ventured into the dining room. I should have known it was a grave error. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to me, not with warmth, but with an unsettling curiosity, as if I were an anomaly. I attempted a smile. I made these, I offered softly, butter cookies. David used to adore them. My daughter-in-law strode towards me, her face contorted with fury. "What are you doing?" she hissed, her voice barely a whisper. "This is a sophisticated gathering, not a bake sale." I persisted with my strained smile. "They're just cookies," I murmured. Then she committed an act of shocking cruelty. She reached out and deliberately knocked the plate from my hands. The beautiful old plate shattered on the hardwood floor, exploding into 100 glittering fragments. My cookies scattered like broken promises. "Are you trying to harm my son?" she snapped. "These are laden with sugar and butter. Do you wish him to suffer a heart attack?" My grandson, startled by the crash, began to wail. His mother scooped him into her arms, her eyes fixed on me with a glacial anger. "He doesn't even know who you are," she spat, her voice low and venomous. "And I'm relieved. I don't want him to consider this normal." Then she turned and walked away, her parting words muttered mostly to herself, reaching my ears. "I swear, when will that old woman finally die?" The guests remained motionless, silent. A few averted their gazes, feigning interest in their phones. No one offered assistance. My old knees protested as I stooped to gather the broken shards, collecting the cookie crumbs, which still carried their sweet, warm scent. A cruel irony. I did not cry. I wanted to, but I swallowed the tears, a skill honed over years of buried sorrow. As I cleaned the debris, my thoughts drifted to the small box hidden in the upstairs closet, the deed within, the deed proclaiming my 49% ownership of this house. I had given them almost everything, but not that. And I recalled the utility bills I diligently paid each month, electricity, gas, water, still in my name. They had forgotten to transfer them. They had the beautiful house, but I was the one who kept the lights on, standing amidst a room full of people who saw me as inconsequential. I finally grasped it. This was not my home, but it wasn't entirely theirs either. Not yet. A few days later, I found myself scrolling through Facebook on an old tablet, a rare indulgence born of loneliness. My daughter-in-law had posted an album of Christmas photos, perfect, smiling faces, dressed in their finest. I zoomed in on one, my son, my grandson, and her, posed before the fireplace. The stockings I had knitted for them years ago hung proudly. The Christmas tree was magnificent, but I was absent from the frame. It made sense. I had been confined to the cold storage box. I scrolled through more pictures. Thanksgiving, a summer gathering, my grandson's birthday. Countless images, yet I was nowhere to be seen. On the birthday photo, I squinted, remembering standing right beside the cake. But in the picture, I had been meticulously cropped out. Only a sliver of my sweater remained visible. Below one image, a caption read, "Just us, our little family, just us." It felt as though a giant eraser had systematically obliterated me from their lives, not merely ignored, but erased. I decided to call my son, desperate for an explanation. I heard the faint hum of his car in the background. "David," I began, "I saw the pictures on Facebook." A beat of silence. "What about them?" he asked. "Well," I continued, "I was just wondering why I'm not in any of them." He chuckled, a brittle, mirthless sound. "Mom," he said, "it's just Facebook. It's not real life." "But I was there," I countered. "I was at the birthday party." He cut me off, his voice now sharp. "Mom, you wouldn't understand. It's for people our age. You don't need to be in every picture. My voice softened. I don't want to be in every picture. I replied. I just didn't want to be erased. He paused. Then, Mom, the internet isn't for you. Just stay off Facebook. It's better that way. He hung up. I sat there, the silent phone pressed to my ear, his words echoing in my mind. It's not for you. You wouldn't understand. I felt no anger, only a profound emptiness, like an old photograph fallen behind a dusty shelf. That night, again in the cold, I contemplated the nature of invisibility. Other small details surfaced. My name removed from my grandson's school emergency contact list, the family Christmas cards addressed solely to the Johnson family. I was merely a guest, a ghost. Yet this house, this very house, bore my name on its deed. My signature adorned the papers. My money funded the down payment. They had erased me from the pictures, but they could not erase me from the legal documents. On paper, I existed. It was time to remind them. I never imagined myself as a spy, yet desperation had pushed me to the brink. One evening, after everyone had retired, I was in the kitchen, feeling a chill despite the room's warmth. That's when I saw it, a tiny camera cunningly concealed beneath a cabinet, aimed squarely at the center of the kitchen. They were watching me. They likely assumed I was too old to notice. My heart hammered with a mixture of fear and surging anger. I found the camera app on the tablet and began reviewing the old recordings. What I witnessed turned my stomach. My daughter-in-law, conversing with her friends, declared she's utterly useless. She just occupies space and breathes. My son, talking to his work colleagues, commented, "The old woman still believes she owns a portion of this place." Laughter followed. A recording from a night they argued about finances captured her saying, "That woman is a parasite." That word, parasite, inflicted a deeper wound than the cold ever could. And then, the most chilling discovery, the recording from Christmas night, the night I was banished to the container. Her voice, clear and chilling, uttered, "I swear, if she would just die already, we would all be better off." I had to set the tablet down, my hands trembling uncontrollably. That night, I retrieved a small USB drive, a memory stick. I connected it to the tablet and saved those damning video clips. The parasite clip, the die already clip, all the clips of them ridiculing me. I now had irrefutable proof. The truth resided on my small memory stick. The following day, I visited a lawyer's office, a modest, unassuming space. I knew the lawyer slightly. I recounted my entire ordeal, the container, the cookies, the hidden camera. Then I presented him with the memory stick. As he watched the videos, his eyes widened with disbelief. "Mrs. Johnson," he stated, his voice grave, "this is exceptionally serious. Their actions were profoundly cruel, and given that your name remains on the house deed, we have grounds for action. We can fight this." I nodded, a firm resolve settling within me. I was ready to fight. He carefully placed my little memory stick into a special envelope. A faint surge of power coursed through me, the power of undeniable truth. After leaving the lawyer's office, I made a phone call to a young journalist named Lisa, a former student of mine. I had briefly shared my story with her before, and she had urged me to call if I ever wished to speak further. "Lisa," I said, "I'm ready to tell my story now." She promised to meet me the following day. Sleep eluded me that night, replaced by a restless blend of nerves and anticipation. Tomorrow, I would shed my cloak of invisibility. My lawyer, Mr. Reynolds, outlined the strategy. "We will petition the court to sell the house," he explained. "It's called a partition sale. The law stipulates that if co-owners of a property cannot reach an agreement, a judge can order the house sold, and the proceeds will be divided accordingly." He reviewed my documents, the deed with my name, the utility bills I had paid, and the memory stick laden with videos. Their treatment of you was reprehensible, he asserted. While it may not warrant imprisonment, it will certainly lead to them losing this house. We filed the necessary paperwork that very day. A week later, a letter arrived from the court confirming the acceptance of our case. A notice would be dispatched to my son and his wife within 3 days. A monumental surprise awaited them. That same evening, Lisa, the journalist, called. "The story is ready," she announced. "We can air it this weekend. Would you like us to use your real name?" I took a deep breath. "Yes," I replied, my voice steady. "Use my name. And use theirs too. I am too old to be invisible any longer." The story aired on the Sunday night news. The news anchor's expression was somber. "Tonight," he began, "we bring you a story from right here in Michigan. It's about a grandmother who spent her Christmas not by a warm fire, but in a cold steel box in her own backyard." Old photographs of me flashed across the screen. Me holding my infant son on his first birthday, my husband, and I smiling in the snow outside our home. The anchor's voice returned. "She entrusted her life savings to them to purchase this home," he continued. "Her name remains on 49% of the deed. She paid the bills. She repaired the furnace. But this Christmas, they deemed her an embarrassment. Her own grandson didn't even know her name." Then the chilling recording played, my daughter-in-law's voice, clear for all of Michigan to hear, uttering, "God, I wish she'd just die already." The anchor reappeared. "But she did not die," he stated. "She fought back. And now a court may order the sale of the very home she helped to build." That night, after the news, my phone rang incessantly. A neighbor called. "Mary, I am so sorry," she said. "I had no idea." A cousin reached out. "I saw the story. You were always stronger than you look." And then my son called. I let it go to voicemail. "Mom," his voice shaky and pleading, said, "Please call me. We can talk about this." I listened, then deleted the message. The next day, a piece of paper was taped to my son's mailbox. "A family that hides their mother will lose their home." I hadn't put it there. A neighbor must have. The entire neighborhood was privy to my story. The public shaming began subtly. The neighbor who always waved to my son each morning stopped. The woman next door, who once exchanged flowers with my daughter-in-law, posted on Facebook, "Respect your mother, or one day you will be crying outside a courthouse." Soon, the entire neighborhood buzzed with gossip. I contacted a real estate agent, a sharp woman named Sharon, and informed her of my intention to sell my 49% share of the house. The following day, a prominent "for sale" sign was hammered into the front yard. My daughter-in-law arrived home, froze upon seeing the sign, then dashed inside, slamming the door. My son called again, pleading for a meeting. This time, I agreed. We met at a small coffee shop. He looked utterly devastated. "Mom, why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice laced with despair. "You said you wanted this house to be our family home." I met his gaze steadily. "I did," I affirmed. "But you ceased treating me as part of this family. You locked your mother in a cold box. You allowed your wife to utter such vile things about me. You only care now because the neighbors are watching." He lowered his gaze to his hands. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Sorry is a kind word," I replied, "but sorry does not undo what you have done." A few days later, my daughter-in-law appeared at my new, small apartment. She looked haggard, her eyes red-rimmed from weeping. In her hands, she clutched the small blue blanket I had knitted for my grandson when he was born. "Can I come in?" she asked. She confessed her shame, imploring me to halt the sale of the house. "Is it because of the neighbors?" I inquired. She shook her head. "No," she replied. "It's because I was wrong. I forgot what a good woman you are. She offered me the blanket. I looked at her. I do not hate you, I stated calmly, but I cannot return. That house is like a mirror. For years, I looked into it and saw nothing. I will not do that anymore. I gently closed the door. That night, I gazed out my window. Though I couldn't see the for sale sign, I knew it stood there. My name was on that sign. For the first time in a very long time, my name held meaning. On New Year's Eve, snowflakes drifted softly from the sky. I returned to the house one last time. I didn't knock. I used my own key, the one I had always kept. Inside, they stood amidst a chaotic jumble of moving boxes. They rushed towards me, pleading for me to stop. "Mom, please," my son begged. "If you sell the house, we'll have nowhere to go. This is your grandson's home." I remained silent for a long moment, my gaze drifting past him to a framed photograph on the wall. It was a picture of him as a small boy, holding a plate of the butter cookies I had baked, a wide, happy smile revealing 2 missing front teeth. I opened my purse and took out my own worn copy of that same picture, creased from countless times it had been held. I looked at my son, the grown man before me. "You used to smile like that because your mother baked you cookies," I said softly. "Now your mother smiles because you no longer have a place to eat them." His wife began to sob. My son stood frozen, utterly lost. I turned and walked towards the door, pausing to look back one last time. I used to be quiet because I wanted to keep this family together. I told them, "But you taught me something important. Silence does not earn you love. It merely erases you." I closed the door behind me, the lock clicking softly into place. Outside, the world was blanketed in pristine, white snow, silent and peaceful. I inhaled deeply, the cold, fresh air invigorating me. As I began to walk away, for the first time in a very, very long time, I felt a warmth radiating from within.